so we're going to talk more now about writing a compare-contrast paragraph and what that is. For some reason, this is a type of writing that students seem to struggle with a lot, so we're going to go into more detail than I'll go into with a lot of the other paragraphs. I don't think it's quite as intuitive. So this is going to be a longer set of lectures, but I think it'll pay off in the end. So let's start with, as we normally do, with the goals. So what do we do in a compare-contrast paragraph? Well, the main things are that we either illuminate subtle differences between two things that seem similar or reveal unexpected similarities in two things that initially seem different. So the goals, those goals are we want to, well, compare and contrast. The other really important thing is that we're demonstrating our thought process. We're explaining not just what is different, but why what's different is important. And that's what the thesis is ultimately going to relate to. More often than not, you're going to evaluate or decide what is better between two different things or options to determine which is better or worse. And I find that those are normally easier than just objective ones, because you can normally say, like if I was to ask you with two sports teams, which team you thought was better, most of you could come in and tell me team A is better because X, Y, and Z, because you already have some guidance for how to write the paragraph. So often that's a good way to handle these, is to choose, to evaluate one option compared to the other. So some main strategies here. The first thing you're going to want to do is form a strong grounds for comparison. We're going to talk more about how to do that later, but it's easier to compare two things of the same types. So, you might compare two jobs or two majors or two breeds of dogs or two hobbies, but it's not going to work very well if you compare a job and a breed of dog. They just don't have enough that's similar to work with. You might not want to compare a dog and a hobby unless your hobby is training dogs. So that can be, it can be really hard to write them if you start in the wrong place. You also don't want to juggle too much. I recommend choosing one similarity between, the two things, sort of focusing on two things, one thing that's similar and three things that are different, or one thing that's different between the two things and three similarities. You don't want to try to compare and contrast 20 things. And you don't want to try to list every possible similarity and difference, because then you end up with something that's 100 pages long and is impossible to manage. So you really kind of want to focus on the most important things for the why that you're using. And I can't emphasize this enough, choose a structured approach. The two we're going to talk about here are subject by subject and point by point. If you don't choose a structured approach, then it gets really, really confusing what you're talking about. When you tend to go off on tangents, you lose your message, and the paragraph doesn't work out. So you really do want to stick to one of the structured approaches that I'll talk about in a bit. So, well, here are the structures. So there are two real options for these. There's a third that you're sometimes taught in high school, which is similarities and differences, or differences and similarities, but we don't really want to use that at the college level because it is pretty limiting. So we want to use one of these that are easier to expand on and to use throughout your college career. And the two are subject by subject and point by point. So subject by subject looks at the attributes of one topic and the other in succession. So your first half of your paragraph might be on item A, your second half of your paragraph might be on item B. It's best for very short responses or situations where you're being objective and not making an evaluation. Point by point sounds harder at first, but I actually find it a lot easier. Most teachers agree that it's easier to do it well. And it compares two topics side by side based on attributes. And it's better for essays and in-depth discussions, although you can definitely use it in a short paragraph, or better for situations where you're evaluating, trying to compare the two things side by side to show which is better. So how do these actually look? So subject by subject, whoa, my computer's being weird again. You'll see, we're going into more details in a minute. So if your topic sentence was my two cousins are very different, you would first talk about Joanne in appearance, You have a sentence about her appearance, a sentence about her personality, and a sentence about her hobbies and interests. Then you do the same with Mary. Appearance, personality, hobby, and interests. And then your transition sentence or concluding sentence would be my cousins are complete opposites. So you can see in subject by subject, under your topic sentence, you talk about one subject, the attributes of it, second subject, attributes of it, but you still want to talk about the same attributes so that you're using a good strong grounds for comparison. And point by point, you arrange it a little differently. Your topic sentence is the same, but then you talk about one attribute first, appearance. Then you talk about Joanne's appearance and Mary's appearance. Talk about personality as the second attribute. Then talk about Joanne and then Mary's personality. And then hobbies and interests. Joanne, then Mary. And you end with the same concluding or transition sentence. The content is the same. The difference is the arrangement, the structure. You don't want to mix these up. You don't want to talk about appearance, personality, and hobby with Joanne and then talk about like location and job with Mary. You want to keep the grounds for comparison the same with both things you're comparing. So here's an example of a subject by subject paragraph. It kind of got cut off a little bit, but you'd start with topic A. You might be comparing academic and professional writing. So topic A is academic writing. So you're going to look at paragraph structure, then point of view, then tone as they apply to academic writing. And then in the same paragraph, you're going to talk about paragraph structure, point of view, and tone as they apply to professional writing. And again, this is subject by subject. Here's an example of a subject by subject paragraph. So the topic sentence is, there are key differences between academic and professional writing. For example, academic writing is generally structured differently than professional writing. So then we're going to go with our topic A. Academic papers usually include traditional well-developed paragraphs. Additionally, academic writing uses the more objective third-person point of view, such as the use of he, she, or it. Lastly, academic writing uses a formal tone. So you can see this first subject is kind of like a mini paragraph. And then you transition to the second subject. On the other hand, professional writing, which is your second subject, often contains short, direct paragraphs with bullet points to highlight key ideas. Another key difference between the two styles is that professional writing uses the first-person point of view or use of I, so that the communication comes directly to the author. Similar to academic writing, professional writing requires a serious tone in order to gain the respect of the reader. So here you have the paragraphs, then you have point of view, so well-developed paragraphs and short, direct paragraphs, point of view, third-person point of view, first-person point of view, and tone, a formal tone, serious tone. So the same things or same attributes are in the same order. We're just doing all of topic A first and all of topic B second. And then you have a conclusion sentence or a transition sentence. No matter which type of writing you are creating, it is most important to tailor your writing to fit the expectations of the genre so that your message will be well received. So now let's compare that with a point-by-point paragraph. So this is using the same topic where we're comparing academic writing versus professional writing. So we're going to start by talking about the paragraph structure of academic and professional writing. Then we're going to talk about the point of view with academic and professional writing. And then we're going to talk about the tone with academic and professional writing. So this is the same basic paragraph. It is longer and it did get cut off on the bottom, but you should still get the same sense. The topic sentence is very similar. Then you have point 1, academic papers usually include traditional well-developed paragraphs, whereas professional documents often contain short, direct paragraphs with bullet points to highlight key ideas. So you can see side by side, academic papers and professional documents are compared with the in respect to paragraphs. Then you have point 2, where we're talking about point of view. Additionally, academic writing uses the more objective third-person point of view, such as the use of he, she, or it, while professional writing uses the first-person point of view or use of I, so that the communication comes directly from the author. So again, we're comparing academic writing and professional writing side by side in the same place. But we're only focusing on the point of view in that sentence. And we'll do the same thing with point 3. Both styles of writing, however, require a formal tone. Similarly, academic and professional writing both employ a serious tone required in formal writing to gain respect of the reader. So you're comparing academic and professional writing side by side in terms of tone right there together. The conclusion or transition sentence are the same for the two paragraphs, and that's all that's really cut off at the bottom. So we've talked a little bit about the structures of a compare-contrast and what a compare-contrast does. We're going to go ahead and stop this video here, and then we're going to talk more about some strategies for pre-writing and how to form those grounds for comparison. So I'll be back in just a moment.